With the first pick in the 2025 Sportsbook Draft, FanDuel selects the Kentucky Derby.
New customers get a no-sweat first bet up to $500 on the Kentucky Derby with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook.
Well, a lot to look forward to on Kentucky Oaks and Derby weekend. Plenty of stakes action on both Friday and Saturday. Mike and I are here to discuss the race right before the Kentucky Oaks on that Friday card. It is race 10, the grade 3 Unbridled Sidney, going the 5.5 furlong distance on turf for the fillies and mares. Before we get into the handicapping, do note we've got this promotion going on from our friends at FanDuel. If you sign up as a new customer, you get a no sweat first bet of all the way up to $500. Make a first bet of up to $500. If it wins, that's great money in your account from a winner. But also, if it loses, you get the money back. No sweat for you. Find out more about that at FanDuel.com. Also, handicapping the Kentucky Oaks and Derby cards. Get one of these Kentucky Derby packages, and you can save up to 39% by bundling your PPs with betting strategies, the player's guide, clock reports. I'll actually be writing those betting strategies along with our DRF analyst, Marcus Hurst. So make sure to catch those. Our colleague Mike Welsh will be putting together clock reports for all the races on Friday and Saturday, more than just the stakes races. So you'll want to find out more about that at shop.drf.com. Well, Mike, let's get into the handicapping of this Unbridled Sidney. We've got 9 runners signed on for this race, and it feels like there are 2 that are going to take the bulk of the money. The number 4, AG Bullet, who's just been a really strong competitor in turf races over a variety of distances, going both short and long. And the number 9, Queen Maxima, shipping in from California in razor sharp form.
Yeah, 2 California shippers here who look like they're going to take a ton of beating here. They're 2 really talented horses on the grass here. You're right, AJ Bullet, it's kind of rare to see a horse who can do what she can do. They run her at a lot of different tracks. They run her at a lot of different distances. I mean, dropped back from a mile to 5 furlongs for the Breeders' Cup last year, and she ran great. That's not an easy thing to do.
She's really versatile. It's actually never gone this 5.5 furlong distance before, but it should suit her perfectly given her versatility. Let's take a look at the Timeform US pace projector for this race to get a sense of where those 2 favorites could be placed in the early stages, Mike. And I'm not sure how important it really is for AG Bullet or Queen Maxima, whether they're on the lead or in a stalking position, because they both have shown versatility in their prior starts. And it does feel like they're facing a couple of fillies who are going to need to go forward to have their best chances, those being the number 5, Opponent's Hope, and the number 8, Sturdia.
Yeah, I agree. I did think both the 5 and the 8 could be in front of the 2 favorites in this race. I also didn't really feel like it mattered that much.
Let's go through this field from the rail out, beginning with the number 1, Cloud Walker, who's going to be a big price in this race. And Mike, she did some nice things early in her career. She won 2 of her first 4 starts, including a sprint victory over this Churchill course at the 5.5 furlong distance back in June of last year. Since then, things have sort of been up and down, and more so down recently. She's just been off form lately coming into this. She is third off the layoff, but she's going to just have to run better than her recent efforts.
Yeah, agreed. She's third off the layup here, so you're going to maybe hope that she'll take a little bit of a step forward. I think you don't really have to care too much about the seasonal debut there on the all-weather surface. I'll give her a pass for that one. I wanted to see her run a little bit better last time, and she just didn't really kick that hard. But we do know that when things set up for her and she can get a clean run into it, she's got a pretty good finish to her. Pace is really important to her in here, David, and maybe they'll go fast enough to give her a real chance in here. I left her open at a price, but this is a tough spot for her.
The number 2, Awesome Treat, also appears to be in a tough spot, and she'd also be in a tough spot if they ran her on Saturday, where she's cross-entered in the Derby City Distaff, which seems way tougher than even this race. This is a horse who has done some very nice things on the synthetic course during her career, maybe hasn't run quite as well on the turf, even though she's won a couple of races on this surface. She's just one, Mike, who even her best efforts don't quite put her on par with those of the favorites.
I looked at her the same way. I mean, she has rallied to win a couple of 5.5 furlong turf races in her career, but I don't think either one of those efforts would beat this field.
The number 3, Gavea, started out as a horse that was going longer earlier in her career, especially when she first came over to the United States. But recently, they've made her into a turf sprinter at fairgrounds, going the 5.5 furlong distance in her last couple of starts. She's won both of them, an allowance race and then a minor stakes last time in the Mardi Gras. And Mike, she did put in eye-catching late runs to win each of those races. Just feels like she was beating weaker competition, and she's really going to need this pace to heat up if she's going to have a chance at this level.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe it will. Maybe she'll get the right setup here and she can come running again to make it 3 in a row. She's just going to have to run better, I think, David. If she's going to, I don't have real knocks on the last 2 races, but she's going to have to run better than that to beat this. Because she had a little trouble in the allowance win 2 starts back and overcame it, what I thought was a really nice performance. But she's already run back out of that race and got to win at a big price. I don't think I want to bet her now.
The number 4, AG Bullet, one of my favorite names in the game, a really clever one. AG, the chemical symbol for silver. And as we take a look at in this replay, she is a silver thoroughbred. She's got that gray color. And we're going to check out her race 2 back in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, where she was facing the males and some of the best males that you could find going a sprint distance on the turf anywhere in the world. And Mike, she does everything but win this race because she was chasing a runoff of Cogburn in the early stages, makes that first move to catch him in mid-stretch, but just kind of gets swallowed up at the end by a couple of closers as Starlust and Motorious run past her right at the finish line. But boy, that was a really strong effort from AG Bullet. She came right back in the matriarch in her next start. You talked about her versatility earlier. She stretched all the way out to the mile and again held her own against grade 1 competition going that longer distance. I think the only question with her coming in here is the layoff.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to concern yourself with that. Although she has, run well fresh in the past, so maybe she's just going to be ready to go again. It doesn't really seem like there are that many bad races on her card. The Breeders' Cup, it was a great performance, and if she runs it here, she's going to be really, really hard to beat. I'll be honest, David. Personally, I didn't think she ran well in the matriarch, even though she was 3rd at the end of that race. But I don't really want to hold it against her too much.
The number 5, Epona's Hope, is the one that they might all have to catch on the front end because the name of the game for her is speed. And she is going to be busting out of the starting gate and look to run as hard as she can, as fast as she can, for as long as she can. And we'll take a look at the replay of her most recent start, the Captiva Island, where she used those tactics to great effect, got right out to the front end and never gave anybody a chance to catch her. But Mike, this was against slightly weaker competition at Gulfstream Park. The horse that she's beating on both of her last 2 occasions, Just to Care, she's got talent, but she hasn't quite shown the talent of the 2 favorites in this race. And the other thing with Epona's Hope is she's got to prove she can get the extra half furlong here.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the other thing is she's going to have to prove that she can get the extra half furlong. She's going to have to prove it with pace pressure this time, because in each of her last 3 wins, she's won those races easily. She was absolutely loose on the lead in all those races, and she is not going to be loose on the lead in here.
The number 6 is Bling, another horse who's going to try to come from off the pace in here if that pace does develop towards the front end. She ran pretty well in her last start when she came off the layoff at Keeneland, was dismissed at a big price by the bettors, despite having some nice performances going back in her past performances. And she made a good late run to get up for second behind Pipsy, who I think is a pretty talented runner, and Bling was never catching her that day, but she did stay on well to finish clearly in the runner-up slot. And Mike, I found this statistic for her trainer, Victoria Oliver, who does not have good numbers first off the layoff, but second off the layoff, especially one of this type, 3 to 6 months. She does very well, especially on the turf.
Yeah, really good trainer stat there. And I thought she ran really well off the layoff last time at Keeneland. I know she was only second best in there, but I thought that was a really good performance. She's weird to take apart her PPs, David. The first 2 turf sprints of her career, I thought they're separated by more than a year, but I thought she was really good in both of those races. And then she ran some real head scratchers last year, man, like a good one and then a bad one. I think she's a real hard read for me, but I liked her last race. I liked some of her earlier races too. I feel like there could be enough pace in here for her to come running at this thing late and maybe make herself dangerous at a price. I wanted to use her.
The number 7, Crown Imperial, is a horse who sprinted on turf earlier in her career, tried going longer for a time last season. It did eventually turn back to sprinting on turf in her last 2 starts, and she ran pretty well in each of them, Mike. But watching back the replays of each of those last 2 races, I thought she got great trips and didn't quite finish as strongly as I was hoping, and they both came against weaker competition than this.
Yeah, we look at it the same way, particularly that last one. I know it was off the layoff there, so she had a right to maybe be getting a little bit tired, but they just didn't make her go fast early in that race. That was a really moderate pace, and she was kind of desperate to hold on at the end there. I don't know. She's got some talent. I don't know if this is the right spot.
Mike, we've handicapped a lot of races together by this point, and you probably know this is the kind of horse, Esternia, the number 8, who I would love to make a case for, because there are some things to like, and she's the kind of horse that a lot of people would just dismiss because she's run on dirt recently. It looks like her form has tailed off just a little bit. But you go back to the beginning of her career, she did win first time out on the turf, going the 6.5 furlong distance at Kentucky Downs, and her other turf race was a route, which is just too far for her. She's by a Stern, who is a good turf influence sire. I just have trouble seeing her produce a winning effort on the turf against competition of this level.
Right, exactly. I would like to see Randy Morrison, these connections, actually keep her on turf maybe after this. I don't know if this is the spot to switch her back over, but I do think she is interesting on the grass. The other thing she has working against her, I think, David, is that she's basically a speed horse, and there's plenty of other speed in this race.
Yeah, I really tried to get to her at a price, but I couldn't get over both of those things. The level of competition and the fact that the number 5, Eponina's Hope, was in the race and was really going to mess with her running style. The number 9 is Queen Maxima. We'll take a look at the replay of her most recent start, a grade 3 victory in the Monrovia at Santa Anita, coming down the hill, going that 6.5 furlong distance. Mike, she's just been in razor sharp form recently. She's won 4 races in a row, all of them turf sprints. She did try to go long on the turf once. That was not a good effort, but all of her other turf races at sprint distances have resulted in exacta finishes, 5 victories included among those. She can use any kind of running style. The problem with her is that she's been odds on in race after race, facing weaker competition to this. And now she just gets a real class test.
Exactly. And that makes it harder to take a short price on her. And that's how I originally looked at her, David. And then I went through all of her turf sprints. And I just think she's really, really good. I know like she was 1-5 in her last 2 starts, and you don't win races any easier than she won those races. I guess she was supposed to do that. But I mean, she basically never took a deep breath either time. And she's got a great running style because she's super handy. She's fine to go to the lead. She's fine to sit on the outside. She's fine to sit in behind horses and then try to find room. I don't know, man. Maybe this will wind up being too tough for her. And at a short price, she'll be a bad bet. I think she's a really good horse.
Before we get to our picks, let's remind everybody of that promo from FanDuel. If you're signing up for the first time as a new customer, you get that no sweat first bet of up to $500, which you'll get back if your winning bet does lose. If it wins, great for you. You made a nice score. Well, everybody, let's take a look at our picks for this grade 3 Unbridled Sidney. And Mike, you're going to go with that horse we were just talking about, the number 9 Queen Maxima, who is stepping up, but boy, her recent races are good.
Exactly. I'm going to hope that the other Californian, AG Bullet, I'm going to hope that she's the one who becomes a clear-cut favorite in this race. I'm going to take a shot with the other Californians on the outside. And, I did want to use Bling, David, also. I think that's of the outside. I really had a tough time going against the favorites in here. The only other horse I want to use is the 6.
Yeah, I don't think we were looking at this race that differently. When I went into handicapping, and I thought I was going to be way more against Queen Maxima than I ultimately was, because I am afraid of her for all the reasons that you mentioned. I was just swayed by the class of the number 4, AG Bullet, and her versatility, and the fact that she's done really well coming off layoffs in the past. So I'm not too concerned about her coming in here off a bit of a break. So it is going to be 4-6-9-3 for me and 9-6-4-1 for Mike in that race right before the Kentucky Oaks on Friday, the grade 3 Unbridled Sidney. Good luck if you're playing the races later this week.